Many Christians have embraced Islam during and shortly after the Islamic conquests following the death of the Prophet. They were never compelled, it was a recognition of what had already expected. Anselm Tormida, a priest and scholar Christian, he was a person whose story is worth mentioning. He wrote a book famous called The Gift to the Intelligent for refuting the arguments of the Christians. 2. The Gift to the Intelligent for refuting the arguments of Christians. In introduction, 3. From this work he relates his story. May it be known to all you guys my origin from the city of Majorca, which is a great city on the sea between two mountains and divided by a small valley. It is a commercial city, with two wonderful ports. Large merchant ships come and anchor in the harbor with different products. The city is on the island of the same name, Majorca, and the largest part of its land is covered with fig and olive trees. My father was a man very respected in the city. I was his only son. When I was 6 years old, he sent me to a priest who taught me to read the Gospel and logic, which I completed in 6 years. After that I left Majorca and traveled to the city of Larda, in the region of Castile, the center of learning for Christians in that region. From 1,000 to 1,500 Christian students gathered there, all under the administration of the priest who taught them. I have studied the Gospel and its language for others 4 years. After that I left for Bologna in the region of Lombardia. Bologna is a great city, the center of learning for all the people of that city. Region. Every year more than 2,000 students come together from different places. They covered themselves with rough clothes, which they called the hue of God. Everyone whether the son of a worker or a ruler, wore this blanket, to distinguish students from others. Only the priest teaches them, controls them and guides. I lived in the church with an elderly priest. He was well respected by the people because of his knowledge and religiosity and asceticism, which distinguished him of the other Christian priests. Questions and requests for advice came from everywhere, of kings and rulers, along with gifts. They hoped he would accept their gifts and bestow their blessings upon them. The priest told me he taught the principles of Christianity and its norms. I became very close of him for serving him and helping him with his duties until I became one of his more reliable assistants, so that he entrusted me with the keys to his domicile in the church and the food and drink warehouses. He kept it with him, just the key to a small room where he used to sleep. I think, and God knows rather, that he kept his valuables there. I was a student and a servant for a period of 10 years, then he became ill and could not attend the meetings of his fellow priests. During his absence, they discussed some religious questions, until they arrived at what had been said by Almighty God through his prophet Jesus in the Gospel. After him a prophet named Paraclete will come. They argued a lot about this prophet and about who he was among the prophets. Everyone gave their opinion according to your knowledge and understanding, and concluded without obtaining any benefit in that question. I went to my priest and as usual I asked about what it was discussed at the meeting that day. I mentioned to him the different opinions of the priests on the name Paraclete, and how they concluded the meeting without clarifying its meaning. He asked me, "What was your answer?" I gave my opinion, which was taken from the interpretation of a well-known exegesis. He said I was almost correct as some priests, and the other priests were wrong. But the truth is different from all that, because the interpretation of that noble name is known only to a small number of very scholars. Versed, and we possess only a little knowledge. I bent down and kissed his feet, saying, "Lord, know that I have traveled and come to the Lord of a country far away, and I have served him for more than 10 years. I obtained knowledge beyond of the estimate, so please tell me the truth about that name." Or the priest wept and said, "My son, by God, you are very dear to me for serving me and devoting himself to my care. Knowing the truth about that name, it brings a great benefit, but also a great danger. And I'm afraid if you know the truth and Christians find out, you will be killed immediately. I said, by God, by the gospel, and by him who was sent with him, I will speak any word about what you will say to me, and I will keep it in my heart. He said, my son, when you came here from your country, I asked if you were close to the Muslims and incursions were made against you and you against they. This was a test of his hatred of Islam. Know, my son, that the Paraclete is the name of the Prophet Muhammad, to whom the fourth book mentioned by Daniel. His way is the clear way mentioned in the Gospel. I said, so sir, what do you say about the religion of these Christians? He said, my son, if these Christians remained in the original religion of Jesus, then they would be in the religion of God, because the religion of Jesus and of all the prophets is the religion of God. True religion of God, but they changed it and became unbelievers. Asked to him, then, sir, what is the salvation of this? He said, O my son, embrace Islam. I asked him, will he who embraces Islam be saved? He answered, yes, in this world and in the next. I said, the prudent chooses to oneself. If you knew, sir, the merit of Islam, then what separates you from it? He replied, my son, Almighty God has not exposed me to the truth of Islam and to the Prophet of Islam before I got old and my body weakened. Yes, no, there is excuse for us in this. On the contrary, the proof of God has been established against us. If God had guided me to this when I was your age, he would have left everything and adopted the religion of truth. Love to this world is the essence of all sin, and see how I am esteemed, glorified, and honored by the Christians, and how I live in affluence and comfort. In my case, if I demonstrate a slight inclination towards Islam, they will kill me immediately. Assuming may I be saved from them and have suck in escaping to the Muslims, they would say that I should not consider my Islam a favor to them, but that I had benefited simply by entering the religion of truth, the religion of truth. That would save me from God's punishment. Then I'd live among them like a poor old man of more than 90 years, not knowing his language, and would die of hunger among them. I am, and praise be to God, in the religion of Christ and in what he brought, and God knows it. So I asked him, advise me to go to the country of the Muslims and adopt their religion? He said to me, if be wise and hope to save yourself, run to what will succeed in this life and in life future. But my son, no one is present with us in relation to this subject. It's between you and me only. Work hard and keep it a secret. If this is discovered and people know, they will kill you immediately. No, I will be of no benefit to you against them, nor will it be of any value you tell them that you have heard from me about Islam, or that I have encouraged you to be, because I will deny it. They trust my testimony against theirs. So don't say a word, no matter what. I promised him not to do it. He was pleased with my promise. I started preparing for my journey and said goodbye. He prayed for me and gave me 40 dinars of gold. So I took a ship to my city Majorca, where I stayed with my parents for a long time. 6 months. Then I traveled to Sicily and stayed there for 5 months, waiting for a ship to the land of the Muslims. Finally a ship arrived to Tunis. We depart before sunset and reach the port of Tunis at the noon of the second day. When I got off the ship, Christian scholars who listened upon my arrival, they came to greet me, and I stayed with them for 4 months in tranquility and comfort. After that, I asked them if there was a translator. The Sultan in those days was Abu al-Abbas Ahmed. They said there was a man virtuoso, the Sultan's physician, one of his closest advisors. Your name? It was Yusuf al-Tabib. I was very pleased to hear this and asked where he lived. They took me to meet him separately. Told him my history and the reason for my coming, which was to embrace Islam. He was immensely happy that this matter would be completed with your help. We rode to the Sultan's palace. He met the Sultan and told him about my story, and he asked his permission for me to meet him. The Sultan accepted and I introduced myself before him. The first question the Sultan asked was about my age. Told to him who was 35 years old. Then he asked about my learning and the sciences I had studied. After telling him, he said, "Your arrival is the arrival of goodness. Be a Muslim with the blessings of God." So I said to the doctor, "Tell the Honorable Sultan that whenever someone who changes his religion is defamed by his people. So I wish he to bring the Christian priests and merchants of that city to ask they about me and listen to what they have to say. So, by the will of God, I will accept Islam." He said to me through the translator, "You asked for what Abdullah bin Salam asked the Prophet when he, Abdullah, decided to announce his Islam. He then called the priests and some Christian merchants and allowed them to that I sit in an adjoining room where I was not seen by them. What they say about this new priest who arrived by ship?" he asked. They said, "It's a great scholar in our religion. Our bishops say he is the most and that no one is superior to him in our religious knowledge." After hearing what the Christians said, the Sultan sent for me and I became introduced. I stated the two testimonies that there was no one worthy of worship except Allah and that Muhammad, may the mercy and blessings of Allah be upon him, is his messenger. When Christians heard this blessed and said, "Nothing has stirred him up to this except his desire to marry, since he has been able to marry him. That priests in our religion cannot marry." So they set out in anguish and sadness. The Sultan destined me from the treasure 1/4 of a dinar a day and allowed me to marry Al-Hajj Muhammad's daughter Al-Safar. When I decided to consummate the marriage, he gave me 100 gold dinars and an excellent set of clothes. Then I consummated the marriage and God blessed me with a son whom I named Muhammad as a blessing of the Prophet's name.